It's Rock Talk with the DocRocker. I'm Jeff Bonomo, joined again with the DocRocker himself, Danton Arlotto. This is our homework assignments for the week. This week we have some genty music for the gentlemen in the Zoomiverse. That's right, we're going to be talking about Meshuggah obZen, I believe the name of the album is. And they're like the godfathers of this gent music movement. And then I decided to give you some stoner rock goodness from Canada, my friends in Sheavy, the Electric Sleep.
Yeah, so two very different kinds of heavy, for sure.
Yes.
So what do we want to talk about first? Do you want to do obZen or do you want to do Electric Sleep?
Oh, you know what? I'll take it away this time. I usually throw it to you first, but we'll talk about Meshuggah.
Let's talk about Meshuggah, because they're awesome.
Meshuggah, I didn't know much about until we started doing this these podcasts, and I think like the third podcast or fourth podcast we did, we talked about Periphery and we talked about the music style of gent, where it came from, and everything kept on pointing back to this band Meshuggah as the godfathers of this type of music. So what we did the one time was we pulled up their very first album, and it blew me away. So you went through the whole catalog and you decided to give me obZen, which is their sixth album, which was released in 2008. So they had 6 albums before this. Their first album, I believe, came out in 1990, 91, somewhere around there. 91, and that's the one I listened to, and I love that. This album, I didn't like as much, I'll tell you that right now.
It's definitely a lot heavier and a lot gentier. So.
Well, I was going to say, the word I was going to use is brutal, because it starts off and doesn't let up, which is really cool. It's brutal, it's groovy. Yeah. There's some nice thrash vibes. There is a lot to like on this album, though. There's a lot to like.
I like how the first track is called Combustion.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the standout tracks.
Perfectly.
Yeah. It doesn't let up. It really doesn't let up, really. Yeah. The odd time signatures kept me interested, because it's not just like straightforward like brutality all the way through. And there's some neat like polyrhythms and stuff going on.
Very calculated.
Yeah, and it's tight, but it doesn't sound anything like the first album, which is good. I praise them for their musical evolution. Okay. Because it is very far. It's like, and I don't know how many of the original members are still in the band when they're recording this, but it doesn't sound anything like
I think, honestly, I remember looking these guys up, because as I was going through their catalog, I was, I finally got to the point, like, let me start researching them a little bit, get a little bit of the taste. If I remember right, I think the only different member is a bassist. I think at one point in the early to mid 90s, they had a different bassist. So, I remember
I know the album
about some kind of accident. Someone had like a finger accident, kind of like Tony Iommi with the whole sheet at because they were all like metal workers. And I think it was one of those kind of things where the bass player they had a bad injury and was rendered.
They call that the Iommi.
So yeah, he got Iomi'd, and then they brought in some other guy, and then the other guy has just been with them since, I think. But don't quote me on that. I'd have to read up again on their page and kind of get more details of their history. But yeah, I think it's a lot of the same guys.
Usually read up on these things, and I try to read up on the bands. I know the album they did before this one, they didn't have a bass player. I think the bassist was either studio recorded, or it was like programmed or something, or the drums were programmed, something like that. It's been a long week. So okay. The standouts in this album, Combustion, definitely. Like it pummels you right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I really like Bleed. Track. Bleed I thought was fantastic.
Bleed is probably one of their most well-known songs.
Because maybe that's why I liked it so much. There's something about it's really good. I went back to that a few times. That's a really good song. obZen is the title track's really good. Like I said before, I prefer the older stuff from the first album, where they have more of that Metallica but angrier vibe. That's how I describe their first album. It sounds like Metallica but angrier. Like they're like really like if they could. Those guys that recorded that album back in 1991, like they were Metallica but angrier, and they could like beat up 1991 Metallica easily. Like they're just, you wouldn't mess with those guys. That's how angry they sound on that album. But this one's like this, like it's just so brutal. It is so heavy.
Yeah, it is a sledgehammer straight to the face.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, for an hour.
Trauma.
Yeah.
It's great though. It is a good album. I give it that. It's not my style. I probably won't go back to it much, but they're interesting enough that I do want to hear more of their kind of musical evolution. And some of the stuff they were doing, some of the grooves, man, it's like, it was really interesting, like the staccato stuff they're doing, that very genty riffs, very genty. I liked it. I like that stuff. It's not my thing, but I got through it. And I listened to it twice, which is saying a lot for
you. Yeah, it's a hard album to listen to twice if you're not super into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm indifferent to it, I guess, because there was a lot of really interesting things going on there, which is, maybe I just need to listen to it again. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting used to this.
It's one of those things where, like, the more you listen to it, the more stuff you start picking up, the more you know it. It's definitely very Onion-esque, the many layers.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. If I had I definitely give it 2 thumbs up. If I have to give it like a 1 to 10, I'm gonna go like a 7.5 with it. Really.
Okay.
It's not a bad album at all.
That's fair.
And for anyone that likes that style, it's a great album. Anyone that likes their style from '91, you may not like this. It's a lot different, but I think anyone that's a Meshuggah fan now, is fine with it. The Meshuggah fans from 1991 probably don't listen to the band anymore, if that's what they like, because it's such a different band. And, like I said, you went through the whole catalog, so you heard their evolution. Like,
I pretty much did it in order. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should listen to one of their older albums. They kind of just gradually turn into this, don't they?
Yes.
That's what I thought. This was kind of whoa, that's a different band. It's like from the beginning. It was
from the beginning. obZen was what I was kind of waiting for, because I knew what their sound was before I got into them. But then I started at the beginning. So the whole time going through all their 90s stuff, I'm waiting for that real brutal heavy gent stuff.
Yeah.
And obZen was the first one that really delivered it for me. But I love it. It's probably my favorite album by them. So that's why I recommended it to you. And I'm kind of the opposite, where you really like when they sound a little more like Metallica. That's the stuff that I don't care for as much. But at the same side of it, it's really, really good and I like it. And I would definitely, if it came up and I listened to it again, I would like it. And I'm going to definitely at some point go through all of Contradictions Collapse again, because it's really good. And it's got some disgusting songs on it that are amazing. But as far as regular listening, I'm more on the camp of the later stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. This one first before you would throw in their older stuff. I get that.
And you would do the opposite.
Yeah, I can understand why. Because there is a lot to like. There's a lot to like on this album. It's just, I don't know. I'm going to listen to more of the stuff though. I think I want to hear more of what they turned into. I don't know what was their last album? Is it new?
I just listened to it not long ago. What the heck?
In the last couple of years, I guess. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I'm blanking. I'll remember it in a minute. Yeah, I don't want to look it up.
They do have other albums besides this, right? Like this isn't even close to being their newest one.
No, they have. I think there's at least 2 or 3 after this.
It'd be interesting to see how much further they go in this direction. Because I could hear where Periphery gets their sound
the influence. Yeah,
I can hear the influence.
Hear the influence.
Yeah, I actually prefer Periphery to these guys just because of the different vocal, the different ways the vocalist sings in Periphery compared to this guy is just kind of, that's what he does. This Meshuggah guy can't do what Spencer does. Which is I mean,
2 albums after obZen, Kolos in 2012, and then 2016, The Violent Sleep of Reason. And I think now there's a new one on the way, if I'm not mistaken.
There's probably a new one on the way from every band because no one's been doing anything but recording in the last year.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So very soon, I think we're going to get a slew of new music dumped honest, by like every band imaginable.
Which I am not complaining about.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Getting this stuff to check out is always fun.
So that's my final take on that. I'd say it's above average, 7.5. I'd say I probably won't listen to it much, but I do want to hear more of them. And it was brutal. It was heavy.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Over to you.
So I had the stoner rock group, Sheavy. Is that how you pronounce it? Sheavy?
That's how you pronounce it, yeah.
All right, I was thinking that's a very clever name. It's very, very cool. It's like the car, but it's not.
That's right.
So I got the Electric Sleep, and I, similarly to doom metal, I had like an idea of what the sound was like. But I didn't really listen to a lot of artists proper. I never did like an album straight through. So this was my first like official stoner rock. Same idea. Like I know a little bit of what I know it's got a lot of slow stuff. I know it's heavily influenced by the likes of Black Sabbath, similarly enough to Doom. So I kind of went in with that knowledge. I knew it was going to be slow. I knew it was going to be rather simple, which is a big contrast to a lot of the more proggy stuff I've been digging the last couple of weeks. But it was cool. I was like, this is going to be a big contrast from what I'm currently listening to. So I'm going to jump in. So I went in and I started it. And the first 2 tracks didn't hook me at all. The first track, I was like, all right, this is exactly what I've expected. And like, I like it, but I don't love it. Second song, Velvet, I flat out disliked. The really like slow, like clean acoustic guitar kind of campfire-y stuff. I never go for that.
I don't know why. That's, one thing since I kind of know some of the guys in the band, I always wanted to ask them this question. Why the hell did you put that track second?
Yeah, why? For me, why is it on the album? I really didn't like it at all. So, but then, third track, Destiny's Rainbow, hooked me right in. It was awesome. I loved it. It was super heavy. It had awesome riffs. And the first 2 tracks, the first 2 tracks had great guitar playing, but it wasn't enough to like totally sell me on them. But Destiny's Rainbow did. And the whole time, like literally the singer sounds so much like Ozzy. I was tempted to look it up. I was like, that's not Ozzy, is it? Holy cow, that sounds like Ozzy. In the best ways possible. It sounds like early Sabbath. And you could tell they're not even trying to hide that. And I think it's great. It's a really fitting tribute. I think it's really cool. And like, there were like a good 4 or 5 tracks in a row that were all bangers for me. Title track was awesome. Born in a Daze was awesome. Automaton was awesome. And even the last couple tracks toward the end weren't as like hooking me in awesome as the ones I just listed, but they were still like, yeah, this is solid. I would definitely, if I was like super into stoner rock, this would be a favorite, and I would probably do it many times. I'm probably not going to listen to it a whole lot in the future. I'd be more curious to see some of their other work. I would say my favorite track was probably Oracle.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like it has this kind of epic to it where it's got a lot of different sort of movements to it. A lot of like really slow, ominous, heavy intro, which I really liked. It's super Sabbathy. It even plays with that same little devil interval, that little tritone thing. And they did some interesting things with it that I really liked. I thought the vocals were great. My favorite part of the ensemble together is the guitars. I like the leads. It's very, very Sabbathy. I like the riffs. Very, very Sabbathy. And it's like a lot of my favorite stuff on this album is like my favorite Sabbath stuff. And I loved it. I thought it was really cool. Stardust was a little too long for me and a little repetitive. If I were to handpick favorites, I would do Destiny's Rainbow, Electric Sleep, Born in a Daze, Automaton, and Oracle. And I would pull Stardust and Velvet off the record entirely. And then that would be it. That would be the perfect Electric Sleep album for me. But that's me being overly picky and just trying to dissect it and pick it apart to pieces.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I liked it. It was cool. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear more.
Sometimes it's always like, I don't know, and that's what the cool thing about, us giving each other homework, because we never know what we're going to come back with. Like I didn't know how you would react, is because I know sometimes when things are a little bit simpler, more just regular rock oriented, it's sometimes bores you, sometimes bores me, but the riff has to be strong. And with these guys, the riffing is strong. Here's a couple really interesting things about that album, especially the song Electric Sleep appeared on Napster way back. Remember Napster? It appeared on Napster as unreleased Black Sabbath song. Somebody retitled it, put it up on Napster, and for years people were like, this is an unreleased Black Sabbath song from like 1975. And I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, they talk about cyberspace and stuff like that, so it can't be Black Sabbath. But I'll tell you, man, if you listen to it and you didn't know, you're thinking that's Black Sabbath.
Yeah, you know? I would have easily been fooled.
Yeah, it's not. And so that's, in a way, that's one of the ways they started getting, you know, I don't want to say they became popular because it's a stoner rock band. How popular can a stoner rock band get? Mm-hmm. But they
probably got a lot more recognition.
Yeah, they did. Sure. You know, they're from St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. They're way up there. You know, they're you know, they're out of the way stoner rock band. And that's how I found them. That's, I think, how I found them, I believe. You know, but I was a little bit smarter than most people. And I'm like, this isn't Sabbath. I don't know what this is, but it's not Sabbath. You know, I had to look them up and I found them and I started really, you know, most of the albums I buy off of the guys in the band. You know, that's kind of how they are with their fans. It's like, and the albums are very hard to find. I think the only ones on Spotify and I know on Amazon Music to listen to, I think, are Electric Sleep and the one after that, Celestial Hi-Fi. I had a toss up between which one I wanted to give you because they're both, I think, just as good as each other. Also, the singer Steve, at one point, did work and record with Tony Iommi. Okay. I did an interview with Steve a long time ago when I wrote for the website Electric Basement, and before I think it was before the first reunion with Ozzy, whenever it was, 2002 maybe or something like that. Tony Iommi, I guess, found out about Sheavy, brought Steve into a studio. They recorded a bunch of songs, and I know I have my interview somewhere still. I believe Steve said something along the lines of, I had a chance to take those recordings, but I didn't. So those recordings probably will never see the light of day, but he recorded music. I think it's original music written by Tony with Steve on vocals. And it's just going to sit in Tony Iommi's suitcase, I guess, somewhere.
But now that is some unreleased Sabbath stuff.
Yeah, that I would love to hear. But, you know, I believe Steve had a chance to just kind of, you know, put the recordings in his pocket and kind of walk off. But he's like, you know what? I'm hanging out with Tony Iommi. I ain't going to do this. You know, I ain't going to mess this shit up.
He took the high road.
Yeah, I guess it all kind of just, you know, went crashing down when Ozzy came back to Sabbath. And I would love to hear it, but I'm not going to. So I'm glad that you enjoyed your first real foray into stoner rock.
I did. It was good. It was very good. Thumbs way up.
And they're still around. They're still making albums. The band's pretty different now. I think the only original member is the singer, but they still make some decent stuff. Electric Sleep is it's a great album. The ones a few after that they did, Synchronized is another really good album. So if you ever want to, you know, revisit their catalog with something else, there's a couple other ones I could give you that you may enjoy.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's stoner rock for you. You know, like not all stoner rock though sounds like vocals sound like Ozzy. You know, that's.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, actually. I was expecting something totally different. And the more it went on and the more he sounded like Ozzy, the more surprised, impressed, and infatuated I became.
There's a few bands that try to emulate Ozzy, the Ozzy sound as far as vocals go, but I think Sheavy does it right.
Absolutely. It's subtle, I think.
Yeah, but enough that, you know, if you don't know enough about Ozzy, don't know enough about Sabbath, and then I throw Sheavy on, you're like, hey, was that a new Sabbath song?
Yeah, you could easily fool somebody, anybody.
But I say that in the most sincere way because I don't think it hurts them because they write good music. It's good, solid riffing, man.
They know what they are and they're blatant about it.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that.
a couple Sabbath covers, but they do them slightly different. They're just a little bit different, that like they don't sound like a complete ripoff. They do some Sabbath.
I'm sure
covers.
The sound is spot on though, as far as
it's kinda,
how it's mixed, how it's balanced, how it comes to life. That's awesome.
It's kind of cool. I think they do Tomorrow's Dream. They do. I think they do War Pigs. There's a couple that are floating around, on the internet somewhere, I'm sure. But well, there you go. There's our homework for this week. Again, like, subscribe, join the Rock Talk on Facebook group, please. Rock Talk with DocRocker on Facebook, and keep listening to some good metal.
Yeah, check it out.